For the past 3 years, I've stockpiled my favorite thumbnails on YouTube into my secret vault. And today, I'll be revealing it all. If you don't know, I'm a thumbnail designer who's worked with some pretty cool creators, and I'm excited to show you guys some of my favorite thumbnails. Hope you enjoy. This next one is gonna seem really basic. However, it's so cool. Like once you know like why it's cool. I think it is such a cool way to describe this thumbnail because you might be thinking, all right, this is just a screenshot of the actual video. However, whenever you're playing Mario Kart, you do not see on the map whenever there is a blue shell. So what the creator of this video did, what King Ringsting did, he put on different blue shells on the map in order to describe the blue shells. Because if he didn't, then how do you describe that? And so I think this plays into this trend of having this screenshot-like video to give more authenticity, but it's not. And so look, right here, these blue shells were added in after. And so it's a way to convey what the video is about without really clickbaiting. Because even though this didn't happen in the video, on the actual video game, the blue shells, you don't see them on this mini map. It's not clickbait because this is what happened, but it's just you're just able to convey the way that the blue shells come at you in a visual form. All right, this one is actually kind of weird because what is this? What am I looking at right now? This is like an ugly looking thumbnail, but as it turns out, this video actually did like so much better than the average viewers for the channel. Like within the space, they call this like, it was like an outlier video. It did 10 times better than the average. I think it's really cool because one, there's this idea within thumbnail design of hooks. Hooks are just different things that I guess hook your attention on first glance. One big example is like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is a big YouTuber. And so if you have his face on a thumbnail, you already have a warm connection with the thumbnail because you already know what it's about. And you might be asking, what does Mr. Beast have anything to do with this? It's because there are a couple of different cool hooks within this video in particular. Right here, if you don't know, is a Minecraft sword. And so people who know Minecraft, they know what the Minecraft sword is. And so you already have an association created with this thumbnail. You already have something that you're aware of in the thumbnail. And so it makes it a lot more interesting because if you just had things that you had no idea about, you had no reason to keep looking at this thumbnail. Another hook in this thumbnail are these boots. And you might be asking, all right, what are these boots are from? This is actually from a video game called Terraria. These are pretty popular games. And so these are two different hooks that are used. I personally came across this idea of hooks from Smallant. He talked to a creator that I work with, and I got access to him talking with it. I was able to listen in, and that's where he described this concept of hooks. That's my thumbnail that I like. Moving on to the next one. This is again, how do we convey something that is something that is a video that is in motion? How do you convey that in a still image? And so what I learned pretty early on is how you just add like a blur behind the person. And so this is just basically like a level 2 version of the blur. And so this is an example of running. And it's like, okay, you could see that they're running, but we want to be able to convey it that it's like in motion a little bit better. And so what I typically did, I just come here and I add some blur. But the cool thing about this thumbnail I'm going to show you is that they kind of did it in a way that is more novel. They were able to convey speed. So again, this is another Mario Kart thumbnail. They're able to convey how fast the level is, how fast Mario's going, but in a different way. And it's like, they did this like more spiky blur. And it's like, I don't know if you've seen like those G-Force type simulation. This is what it kind of reminds me of. This thumbnail. It's kind of like that same concept. Making thumbnails is all about just being able to convey things, and sometimes you have to be able to convey moving things. But moving on to a different thumbnail, apart from hooks, we talked about hooks earlier, and hooks are things again that you have an association with. Another thing that you need to think about when making thumbnails, or is at least not you need, but this is what I think. I'm no pro, though I might say I'm a pro. It's just a tool that I use to convey information. I'm just typing and yapping now. This is what I do, and this is what I think of when making a thumbnail, is being able to also plant a question in the viewer's mind. I think Mr. Beast probably says this multiple times. That's probably how I got this idea. I have a question. I maybe not you. I personally have a question. What was this original thumbnail? What did he have to change? What is something so bad that his lawyer came up to him and was like, hey, yo, you need to change this thumbnail. I'm assuming that he talks about this, or maybe he even shows it in the video. So I found this was a good example of being able to plant a question in the viewer's mind. And all good thumbnails, I think, has this. That's another one on my cool thumbnail list. As you can see, I've been having a theme of thumbnails that just, you don't need crazy editing. It's just the idea, and that is the biggest thing. And this thumbnail perfectly encapsulates this idea. You see this thumbnail. The first thing you see, I think that most people see, is they see the image and then they see the title. And so they first see this image of this guy holding a taco the wrong way. He got the schmeat on the other side. Why do you got the schmeat on the other side? I'm cringe. And so it's like the first thing is like, okay, why is that? And then you see the title and you're like, Google Translate makes tacos. You're like, oh, okay, this is a weird way of making a taco. Google Translate. It's weird because I'm a thumbnail designer, so I shouldn't be liking thumbnails that you don't need like me in it. But you don't need me to make this thumbnail. You don't need me. All you need is the idea. But the next thumbnail I'm gonna be showing, like I said, I have this little vault. This one right here. For me, I found this one interesting because it's able to convey the 3 aspects of an Ironman, which is what this video is about: the swimming, the biking, the running, in a way that is very visually appeasing, you know? Because this background, most times you run on Ironman, this is not the background. This background is way too simplified for this to be like an actual photo. To be like this whole thing to be an actual photo. And so the track, when you think of running, you think of track. Like you think of the track that you run on. And so this background helps articulate that thing, and then you have him. And I like the way they stylized it, kind of have it run out the borders. And the background's really simple as well. And then moving on to this bike ride, you just see the simple bike and you see a bike path and you have the nice clear thing. And something I'm realizing that I didn't realize before is how the horizon always lines up on this kind of third of the frame. These blue lines kind of represent the different thirds of a photo. As you can see, the skyline is kind of within this third. This guy's face is kind of within this third. I really like this thumbnail because it's just cool. Why do I have to explain myself, huh? But moving on to this next thumbnail, this one right here. Minecraft, if you aren't like familiar with Minecraft and like the Minecraft content space, Minecraft space on YouTube is so saturated, and so only the best of the best rise to the top. And I found this thumbnail to be really interesting. I see this thumbnail and I see this really visually appeasing kind of rainbow row thing. I'm like, okay, that catches my interest. And I see someone placing it, and then you see the title, I learned 64 impossible Minecraft skills. And so you see this, you're like, okay, how do you learn this? And then it's like, what other impossible skills that we could learn from this video? What other possible skills that this YouTuber learned? And I just thought that it was cool. It was really cool. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was cool. And so this next one that I have is this. One of the main things about thumbnail design is being able to convey ideas is really important. And I found this was a really cool way to convey like someone breaking their wrist. Like just putting red and then showing the bones kind of conveys like, okay, someone's breaking their wrist. And yeah, again, just being able to convey ideas, concepts, things that are in motion, and thumbnails is like the main thing, and be able to convey it in something that's visually appeasing. But moving on, this one right here is a little bit different. So this one's probably one of my favorites too. Okay, why did I click on this video? It's because I see an old white guy in the title being Tyler the Creator, and I have no other context. And so that plants the question, like, I guess within my brain. I'm like, okay, what is this video about? It's talking about Tyler the Creator. I guess that's the hook. It's like, all right, what does this old white dude have to say about Tyler the Creator? A lot of the thumbnails that I tend to screenshot here, I think is, they're more natural thumbnails, but they've added like maybe little hints to it. That's what I think this next thumbnail does. This right here is talking about the story of Mark Rober. And if you don't know who Mark Rober is, he is like this ex-NASA turned YouTuber, and he does different experiments on his channel. So you might be wondering, why am I talking about that? Well, it's because if you watch the actual video, there's no formula stuff like this in the background. In fact, I think the background is completely gray like this. However, they decided to add this little detail, this little contextual detail, give more of a picture of, I guess, who he is. When you see like this math stuff, I don't even know what this is about, this math stuff, you tune in more. It's like, okay, full story of Mark Rober. If you know Mark Rober, you know that he does engineering stuff. But if you don't,
then it's like he's like an engineer, and it's like, okay, what's his story? The main thing that I found interesting of it was that they added this whole thing right here, and it's such like a small background detail that's not like a focal point of the thumbnail. And so because it's not, it's just in the background, it doesn't look edited in as well, especially if you're looking at it for a couple seconds. And that's why I found that one to be interesting. And speaking of thumbnails, I just really like thumbnails that don't look like they're heavily edited or they aren't edited. And so this right here, no thumbnail design was done at all. But I feel like the reason why this video has almost 600,000 views is because hidden in plain sight. I look at this and I'm like, all right, what's hidden? You're trying to find what's hidden in plain sight. And I couldn't find it, and so I watched the video to figure out what's hidden in plain sight. It plants the question in your brain. I keep going over these same concepts, but there's kind of two main things. Is the hooks, which are different things that you're already familiar with or what the viewer is familiar with, and so it grabs their attention, but also the things that plant the question in their mind. And so that's what this does, because you're trying to figure out what is hidden. All right, this next one, I posted on Twitter earlier. A couple, like probably a week or two ago, but this one has to be probably my favorite thumbnail I've seen ever. And this actually has a weird story behind it too, because this thumbnail actually got changed. Just a warning, this is definitely edited in. This didn't happen. In fact, if you go to the comments of this video, people are mad because this never happened, and so there's no one being hurt in this thumbnail. But you see this kid vlogging, and it's like, okay, and he's like in a sinking ship. It's just like this crazy, absurd thing, and it's like, okay, I feel like you just have to know. You just have to know like what's happening, like what actually is going on. Why is this kid vlogging his boat, the Titanic, sinking? But a couple weeks ago, I looked back at this thumbnail and I was looking more so at the actual video that it was on, and I found something. They actually changed something about this thumbnail. They changed the thumbnail. This is the old thumbnail I just showed, but this is the new one, and they added a life jacket to the kid. What was the reason why we added the life jacket to the kid? Was it because of some YouTube policy, or was it like you're trying to convey more that they're underwater and so you added a life jacket? This thumbnail also really shows how well some people are able to make photoshopped photos but make them look realistic, because both this shirt and this life jacket, they look like they fit the kid so well. It doesn't, like, to me, it doesn't really look like an edited photo. But moving on from the kid, this one's a quick one. How do we convey things that are in motion and like convey them in a still image? And this one's a quick one. I really liked how this creator was able to convey like a sword swinging, but in a still image. And they added this really cool like motion blur thing that's like more like cartoony or anime-ish. And that's the reason why I saved this one. Scrolling by, we're almost done. We only have a couple of different more. This one I really like. This is the next one. If you don't know, Terraria is a video game. I actually made a thumbnail using yo-yos. A lot of times if I make a thumbnail that kind of covers the same thing, but I see someone else later on who made the thumbnail using a different concept, they're able to convey it differently, I'll save it. So this is what I made, but I really liked the way that this other person was able to convey the yo-yos within game, because they used like other assets, but it puts the yo-yo in front, because the yo-yo itself in the video game is like really small and it's like not that interesting to look at, but these are like different graphics of the yo-yos, and I think it was just a really cool way of showcasing this, I guess, this idea. This one is interesting because one of my first ever gigs, I guess, started with another Mario 64 speedrunner, and I still work with this content creator. And so when I see thumbnails like this, it's really cool, because I personally think these thumbnails are more interesting, more innovative than the ones I have. I think they use like Blender, which is a 3D modeling software, and they're able to convey like, I guess, more fluidity, more energy with the model. But I think a lot of times you could just get stuck in your ways of doing things, and at least that's what I found with thumbnail design, especially because I've been working on this guy's channel for 3 years now. When you're seeing someone do something that you do but in a different way, I think it's really cool. Last one, this one, which is a tier list. And so YouTube, like, tier lists on YouTube are extremely popular. People have been doing tier lists for a while now. However, I liked how they took the concept of the tier list, but they added onto it. And what do I mean by that? It's because usually when people make these tier list thumbnails, they just have their face on the side, and then they just have like different images on the side. However, I like this one because he's in the background. This guy, Disguised Toast, he's like part of the background, and it's a lot more interesting because it's different. And so when you see a bunch of different tier lists, you're like, okay, but when you see one, when it breaks the norm of what you're expected to see, but the thing is, it still follows like the traditional kind of things I've been saying this whole time. It has like these different hooks because you might know these different brands. So I think this thumbnail is really cool is because it took on this concept that people have been doing for a while. It took on this concept, but made it better. And that's all YouTube is just taking what other people do and just twisting it a little bit and improving upon it.